Welcome back to Where Do We Go From Here? I'm your host, Kimon Kotos, and I'm honored to be with Pastor Tim Cross from the Living Word Church of God. And Pastor Tim, we were talking before about honoring oneself and one's wife and your role as a man in life. But let's talk a little bit more about Tim Cross and his family and your ministry a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your wife and your family.
Okay, I married a great woman. I think she's going to have extra stars in her crown to have to put up with me. We've been married, I think this coming June will be 29 years. My wife, sometimes, when you get into a setting, and especially, somebody talking about manhood and some of what the program that we're looking at doing called For Men Only, and sometimes people think, yeah, man, that guy's probably got a milquetoast wife and kind of thing, but my wife is a strong lady. She puts me in my place at times, and I need a strong woman. And she was actually, I'll say this, when I was in high school, I wore a Stetson and cowboy boots and drove a pickup truck, and I was a Southern rocker kind of thing. And I made a comment one day, I can remember making it, I'll never marry a woman that likes classical music or opera or ballet. Well, I got saved later and met my wife at a Bible study, and she was a performance major at Western Michigan University. Played the classic, played in the orchestra at Western Michigan University. Went on a full ride scholarship as a classical musician. Played 18 years with the Kalamazoo Symphony. I was doing all sorts of stuff. I've got a house full of musicians. I've been to orchestra concerts, symphony concerts, ballets, operas, and we just sort of chuckle because in high school she never would have had anything to do with me, because she says her comment is country and music are two words that should never be used in the same sentence. So we come from diverse backgrounds, and and I say this, she brought class to my life. She has been a tremendous blessing to me, and we have raised 7 children together. We've had 7 kids. People tell me, you got 7 kids, is that a blended family? No, we've had 7 together, and she is a great mother, and she has been a fabulous wife to me. And so that's my wife. Her name's Sandra. Honey, love you if you're watching.
Well, that's great. And, be careful what you ask for. You might get it.
Yeah.
But, no, that's really important because I think, we often as men are looking for our match, and sometimes it's not really by design. What we think we want is what we need,
Well, I said we've been married 29 years, and I sit and I look, and the longer I've been married now, that hasn't been 29 perfect years. We've had, you get 2 strong personalities, you have some conflicts, and you have some stuff that you have to work through. And like I was talking about earlier, marriage is designed to kill you. There's parts of me had to die, parts of her that had to die, and we've learned to make it and to work together and to love each other and to stay in love with one another. But it's not been a perfect, we live for happily ever after kind of thing. You had to work through some things, and you had to work through some disagreements and different ways of seeing things. But yet, at this point, as I reflect back, when just a little bit of history, when I really started serving the Lord, there was a bunch of us college-age kids, and there were probably 15, 20 of us girls and boys, and eventually something happens, you end up pairing off. And I've sat back and I've thought, what would have happened if? And I sat and I look, not that I'm thinking, wondering kind of thing, and I sat and I look and I go, my goodness, God had the perfect one for me. And I tell my wife this, God chose her, put into her everything I needed as a husband, as a man, for the calling I've got, and I thank God for my wife. And it was one of those things. I really wasn't looking for a woman, but I saw her at a Bible study, and all of a sudden went, who's that? But and so God put us together, and she was the perfect match for me. Now, it's taken a little while to see that. I can't say that I always saw that, but today, as I look, the longer we've been together, the more I think, thank God that God chose her for me.
Well, amen to that. I appreciate that. This comes to another subject that I think it's important for men to understand. We often hear in stressful relationships over custody issues, and when people are having personal issues that we often hear. It's like, it's your son, or you're this, or you're that. The whole concept, and particularly about marriage, it's about our family. Mm-hmm. That's our son or our daughter, our marriage. It's something that there's a sanctity to the togetherness, where, again, it's not about me or you. It's about us. And that's a hard thing for men to sometimes accept, that it's beyond their control.
Yes, sir. One day I was doing a personal study in my personal Bible study, and I was looking up scriptures on pleasing the Lord. How could I please the Lord? And I came across a scripture that in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, it says that basically a single person, if they weren't married, their aim should be to please the Lord. And then it says that a married couple, that their aim should be to please their mate. And the light went on for a second, and I like some things that you can take home, fairly simple stuff. And I just sat, and the light went on, and I thought, my goodness, what would happen if two people, when they got up in the morning, when the husband got up, if when he rolled out of bed, one of his thoughts was, what can I do to please my wife this morning? And what would happen if when the wife got up, her thought was, what can I do to please my husband this morning or this day? And I just sat and I thought, is that a simple just illustration of what can cause a good relationship? Because in all my years of ministry now, 25, 26 years in full-time ministry, most of the problems in marriages can really be whittled down to selfishness. I don't want to say that's all of them, but a lot of them, you didn't do this for me. You didn't make me feel this way, and it's usually about me. And I just wonder what would happen in a relationship, and even if it started with one, that they said, what can I do to bless my mate? What can I do not to think about me and look at what I can get out of it? What can I do to bless them?
I was going to pause, let that sink in a little bit,
and then being willing, if I might just say it this way, how can you serve each other? My wife got up this morning, and my kids had a big festival thing and music, and I was still in bed, and she got up early, and I got up, and she said, Tim, could you go make some coffee? And she's trying to get us. And I was still in bed, and I was still in that half-asleep mode. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of me that wants to go, make your own. I'm still in bed. But, I just, yeah, honey, I'd be glad to. Went and made coffee, laid back down, reset the alarm, thought I got 20 minutes. And then she's hustling to get around. She said, Tim? I said, yeah. She said, you couldn't make some eggs and toast for me and the kids, could you? And it's like, I got 20 minutes. But it's, sure, honey, I'd be glad to. Now, I can't say I always responded that way.
Sure.
Now, I'm not some whipped guy kind of thing, but and it's not about that. It's about, do I love my wife? Do I love my kids? And I made breakfast for them, and kids came up, and I teased a couple of my daughters and said, you guys are going to do good. And I handed my wife the coffee. They all got out the door, and it's like, all right, I could go back to sleep if I wanted to.
But that's fuel for the whole day.
Yeah, it is. But it's a heart. Now, you see, the thing is, I do that for my wife.
Right.
But the reality is, she does the same kind of stuff for me. It's not a she has to and I have to. I want to, and it's about loving my wife, loving my kids, and then I got to fix the car. That's But it's how can we serve each other? Now, I'm the head of my home. I'm the boss. I have the final say. What I say will go. That's I'm the boss of my home. But that's not a chest thumping thing. That's a service thing. I serve my family. I serve my wife. And when decisions have to be made, somebody's got to make that final decision. But it's not this macho, I'm the boss, and everybody else, when I say jump, you say how high.
Back off. Yeah.
I want to serve my family, love my family, and in that serving, I lead my family.
And it comes down to where do we as men find those examples? You can find them in the Bible, you can find them in people in life, but there's something that you don't necessarily read in a book. There's something that we need to have as part of our dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, you say that, and I think back, I went to a meeting in Atlanta, I believe it was someplace in Tennessee, and I went out to lunch with this pastor and his wife. And I watched how he treated his wife, how he honored his wife, I thought I did good till I saw the way this man treated his wife. And you can say, oh man, he was whipped or he was this. You know, he probably wasn't much of a man. The guy's a 5th degree black belt. You touch him and it's like touching a tree trunk. I watched him in my house. I had a punching bag, and he was standing right in front of the punching bag in a nice suit, and he did this move and spun around and knocked my punching bag all over the place with one kick. And this guy, I mean, he could be a killer. He is powerful. And it's not that he's any less of a man, but the way he treated his wife convicted me. I thought, I have never seen anybody. And this was, I mean, I couldn't say that he was just some wimpy man. He was a powerful man. He was a strong man, confronted things, dealt with stuff. But the way he honored and treated his wife, it convicted me, because I couldn't say he was a wimp. I wouldn't dare say he was a wimp.
It was a powerful example.
And it convicted me. I had to go, my goodness, I've got some areas to grow. But we need those kind of examples.
Sure.
And that's one thing, going back, that's one of the reasons you need a local church, and especially men, that there's a strong men's ministry. There's some example of manhood. We need things like that. Like young boys, I've got 2 sons. I mean, they played sports. My both sons were captains of teams. My oldest son was a captain of the football team. My youngest, the son after him, ended up he finished second in the state wrestling. He was a captain of the wrestling team. God, we're going to walk with God, and not that they're perfect, but yet they had that example. They had the example in the home, but some of it, for some young men, it's you learn it on the football field, you learn it on the wrestling mat, you learn some things.
You learn it in the service sometimes.
Yeah.
But it goes back to what is our purpose in life, and I think that becomes an important thing to really be open and talk about it, because sometimes you struggle on your own trying to figure out, well, Lord, show me which way to go. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's right staring you in the face.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back in just a moment and talk a little bit more about finding that sense of direction and getting focused on how you can find your role as a man in this world.
This program is sponsored in part by